now joined by Regan Smith here in the Charlotte Motor Speedway Media Center. Regan's actually pulling double duty this weekend in the History 300 and Coca-Cola 600. Regan, you have one win in your TaxSlayer.com Chevrolet this year in the Nationwide Series, and you're currently our points leader. Talk about heading into this weekend.
Yeah, it's it's been a good start to the season for us with the TaxSlayer Chevy, and certainly want to keep that rolling this weekend. Want to keep the good forward momentum going this weekend. Had an opportunity to test yesterday, work through a lot of different things that we've been wanting to try with data on the race cars and things like that. So hopefully we can use that to continue building on the points lead and have a good weekend this weekend.
All right, we'll open up for questions. If you just state your name and affiliation, we'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start right here in front.
Yeah, Jared Turner, NASCAR Pole Position Magazine. Regan, I'm just curious, what do you like to do in your free time? If you could just sort of talk about your hobbies, things you enjoy.
Well, free time for me is video games, working out. I enjoy doing that. Hockey, I'm a big hockey fan, so I watch a lot of hockey on TV when I get the opportunity to, and just relax as much as anything. Try to do stuff that makes you maybe not think about racing and what little bit of free time we do happen to have, and maybe focus on something else just a little bit different.
All right, we'll go to Dustin, Alan, and then Marty.
Dustin Long, Motor Racing Network. Regan, you talked at Darlington after the race, talking about Greg Ives and saying that he brings along experiences in the championship runs, experiences that you don't have and that your guys don't have. Although it's still early, what are the things that maybe you feel like you've started to pick up from Greg because he has that experience that you haven't gone through that experience at this point in your career?
Well, I don't know that we've picked up on the things that maybe will come later on in the year when it gets down to more crunch time and when things get a little more heated and the pressure's on in regards to the championship, which hopefully we're in a position to have that pressure. I think the stuff so far, that I've picked up from Greg is his even-keeled demeanor. Nothing seems to faze the guy. If we're having a bad day on the racetrack, he's the same tone as if we just won the race. And I think anybody that's been around him in any extent of time or had a conversation with him kind of notices that he just is very even-keeled, same demeanor all the time, and doesn't let stuff get to him, which in turn, kind of comes back on me because I have a tendency to get wound up very easily. So maybe it's on the racetrack and I'm, on the radio hollering and wound up about something, and he comes on the radio and, hey, we'll fix it. Yep, it'll be fine. And when you hear that, it calms you down in the seat, and that helps out. Helps out to get you refocused and things like that. But as for the championship stuff, I think we'll definitely get to experience that and see that down the road here a little more.
Have you listened to your radio conversations from this year from some of the races, and can you tell that difference and how? Obviously the drivers still get wound up, but can you get a sense of maybe where you've got to calm down a little bit, or
I try not to listen to my radio conversations usually because I'll probably regret a lot of what I say on there sometimes. So. No, I haven't, but I can just tell a difference with me in the car and with my level of composure and at moments where possibly I used to maybe get myself spun out in the race car and cost us 4 or 5 spots. Instead, now I'm able to refocus pretty easily and help us gain spots instead. So, but as for the radio, I don't know if I want to listen to those or not.
Alan.
Regan, Allen, Cavana, NASCAR.com. Do you have any more insight as to the future of the 51 car on the Cup side and how many more races you may get to do?
You know what, I don't. So I'll run what races I can with them. This weekend, obviously, I'll be in the car this weekend, and going forward after that, I'm not exactly sure what the schedule and driver lineup and things like that are for them, but don't know what their future is. Don't know anything more than what I've read that's been wrote or posted. Haven't really had any conversation about that. So it's outside of that, the one thing I'll say is we need car owners and we need guys like James Finch in the garage. They help make the sport what it is. He's been around for a long time and invested a lot of his personal finances into that race team, and certainly you want to see a guy like that stick around and race, and definitely a lot of people enjoy being with him and around him.
Go to Marty.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Regan, this is a bit of an odd one. I'm right in the middle, brother.
I was looking everywhere for you.
How would you describe Jimmie Johnson's career?
How would I describe it? I would, well, I'm a Jimmie Johnson fan first and foremost. I think what he's done has been nothing less than spectacular. And when I sit back and you look at the numbers, you look at what he's been capable of throughout the years, and on a consistent, steady basis. It doesn't matter the racetrack. It doesn't matter the circumstances. It seems like he always kind of rises and shines through. I would describe it as perhaps the greatest of all time. You know, best way I can describe it, I think. I feel that strongly about how good he is and what he's doing, you know, in this day and age when racing's as competitive as it is. So I have a ton of respect for him, and you know, I sit back and actually enjoy watching what he does. I think last weekend, for example, there was moments where you think, oh, they don't have it tonight. They don't have a shot. And when the pay window opened up, Jimmie was up front once again. So the whole team, has been very impressive.
Go to Kenny and then David.
Kenny Beck, WXII 12, NBC, up in the Piedmont Triad region. Regan, curious if you had any thoughts on Bruton Smith's comments earlier this week that he's considering moving the fall race from here to Las Vegas next year. And can you talk just about the balance between filling the stands but also sort of satisfying your bread and butter Southern fans who've been there for decades and decades?
I felt like when he made that comment, my wallet was kind of crying because I don't want to go to Vegas any more than I have to because it costs too much money in the casinos there. But in all seriousness, I would hate to see a race leave Charlotte. I grew up here. I'm from this area, through most of my younger years and enjoyed coming out here as a kid watching races and the spectacle that is Charlotte on Charlotte race weekends. So, I would hate to see that happen. As for the rest of it, I can't speak to, the business side of it and the business decisions and what would go behind making that happen. I can just kind of speak from the heart about liking racing here. With that said, I like racing at Vegas too. So, if that's what the rumors are or whatever they're talking about, we'll all race wherever the race is at. But certainly I think we've all got our hearts kind of here and would not like to see it leave here.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. Regan, to follow up on Alan's question, are you in the 51 at Dover?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Secondly, how many Cup races are you comfortable handling, given that you've got a nationwide championship you're running for? Where's the line between how much you want to do, how much you can do, and your priority, which is on the nationwide side?
Yeah, that's a good question. We talked about that at the beginning of the season, how many I felt comfortable doing. And actually, we've added some this year that I wasn't intending on running. So I think my comfort level is somewhere around 10 to 12, somewhere in that ballpark, and trying not to overextend myself and not give the focus to the nationwide car that it deserves and that it has to get, because that is my priority. So with us being in the position we are with the championship right now, I think that kind of even more so makes me want to make sure that I'm 100% focused on what I'm doing there. But at the same time, when you do run the Cup races, you don't want to take away from those guys either, and it's a fine line. So, we looked at it, talked about it. I actually sat down and talked about it with Greg at the beginning of the season and some other folks, and that was kind of what we came up with as a good general number. And as I said, we've added a few here and there just because of schedule and conflicts and things like that. But moving forward, I'm not sure how things are going to all play out.
Regan, Doug Rice, PRN. On a 1 to 10 scale, where would you rank your team at the start of the season versus where you are now, and can you explain the difference?
Well, I think at the start of the season, before we got to Daytona, I would have said, I'd have probably put a low number on there because there was unknowns. We hadn't worked together. There was things we were learning about each other. I had a lot of confidence in everything, but I didn't. There were still the unknowns, just like every team has. You go into Daytona, and every team has unknowns unless it's a team that was together from the year prior, which we weren't. So I would say going to Daytona, just to be cautious, I'd say 6 or 7. By the time we left Daytona and saw how everybody worked, saw how everybody communicated, saw the level of intensity that our team had and the drive that our team had, I'd say it was up around an 8 or a 9. And I think that's continued all year. Some weeks maybe that number goes up and down and varies, but I feel like we're very close to being a 10. But the good news is I don't think we're ever going to call ourselves a 10. And unless we win every race for the next 10 weeks, then we might be like, yeah, we're a 10 right now. But outside of that, we've got good chemistry. We've got guys that enjoy working together, that enjoy being around each other, and that all work their butts off. And that goes for my team, that goes for the 5 team, that goes for the entire junior motorsports organization, and that's you know, it's been fun to watch.
Brian Nelson, Motor Racing Network. Regan, if you could look ahead to Dover next week and just kind of describe why Dover is monstrous. Why, you know, what is intimidating to you about that track, or how comfortable do you feel there?
Well, I personally love Dover. Dover's always been one of my favorite racetracks. You know, I guess it's cliche, but we always say, oh, it's Bristol on steroids, and it feels very similar to Bristol. But you know, I look forward to going there and racing. It's an intimidating racetrack because you're going so fast. You got the high banking. It's self-cleaning, so odds are if you make a mistake, you are going to hit something. It's very rare, maybe 1 out of 100 times, that you're going to wreck at Dover and not tear the crap out of your race car. So, you know, it requires you to be on top of the ball all the time, not make a mistake, you know, be smooth. And with the concrete, we get a different type of racing. It just seems like, for whatever reason, the concrete seems to make our cars bounce around a little bit more, and you hear a lot of similar and common complaints from drivers when we go to Dover that that week in and week out you maybe don't necessarily hear those complaints. So it's certainly tough. You gotta be aware of your right front tire so you don't overheat it and have an issue and get into the wall, and you know, keep your momentum up all the time around there.
Any more questions for Regan? All right, thanks, Regan. Appreciate the time, and good luck this weekend.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good weekend.